Hello, folks, and welcome to the Scrum Call. This is our second episode in this series. We are going to be exploring what Agile Scrum is all about in very basic terms, practical examples, and I hope it will be something that you can relate to. So, what did we do last time? In the previous episode, we spoke about what this podcast is all about. In this episode, we will basically talk about what is Scrum fundamentally, right? As of now, there are no blockers. All right, team. So let's get on with it. What is Scrum? Before that, let me talk about something different. Let me talk about what is a method, a way to do something, anything. It doesn't matter whether it's software or it is building a house or even making tea. There is a way to do it, right? Now, there could be many ways to build a house or to cook a meal. Let's take tea for an example, or coffee. You might use instant coffee or you might use filter coffee. Both of them have a certain way of doing it. There could be more ways to do it. Which is the most efficient way? If you're in a hurry, which one would you prefer? If you're not sure of the outcome, which one would you prefer? Your way of approaching that would depend on the outcome you want to achieve, correct? Software is no different. Now, when it comes to software, predominantly you would have heard of waterfall. A waterfall is called waterfall because it works like a step-wise way of doing things. So there's, the first step where the water starts pouring comes on to the next step, and then water starts pouring from that, and then the next step, and then the next step. The flow of the water from one stage to the other is nothing but the flow of, or rather not flow, the progress that you're making stage by stage. You would plan about it, you would, document the benefits and the budget and staffing requirements and whatnot, and then you will think, okay, now that we have planned for it, let's prepare a team for it. So you start staffing for it, you'll start allocating budgets, you'll start procuring things for it, and so on and so forth. So everything happens stage by stage. You don't mix things. You're like, I'm first gonna plan for it. Until my plan is approved and good to go, I won't even think of hiring anybody. Once the plan is approved, you start hiring. Now you got the team ready. And then you're like, okay, fine, we're going to start building the software. So it's stage by stage, right? Whereas Agile Scrum, or rather Agile for that matter, is one such method like waterfall. Only in the sense that it is a way to do something. Waterfall is one way of organizing all the efforts that result in creating a software. Same way Agile also does the same thing, but in a different way. Now, one big flaw about waterfall, because of which Agile is now preferred, is that the feedback mechanism is not that strong. Some might say it does not exist, but if you read the paper, there is actually a bit of a feedback, built into it. I think it's in the second or third page in that paper. But even then, feedback is too late. Agile, especially the Scrum framework, right? Agile has many flavors. Scrum is one of them. Extreme programming is one of the ways to do it. Kanban is another way to, implement Agile. They all come back to one very simple thing: quick and early feedback. You reiterate as often as possible, called sprints, and you move forward, making sure that you have feedback early on, you fail early on, you learn early on, and you modify yourself and proceed. So that way, the mitigation of uncertainty, of risks, which is unknown, can be reduced to a very, very large extent. You don't have to wait for the disaster. You know the disaster is going to happen, you can ready yourself for it. Now, Scrum is one of the frameworks of Agile. What happens in Scrum? First of all, what is Scrum to even begin with? Well, you can even Google it, but the players on a football field, American football field, they do a certain maneuver where everyone comes together and starts moving, right? That is called Scrum. So what's the idea with, Scrum and Agile then in that case? Well, the concept is of taking everyone together and move in unison. Now, you can always, and I will talk more about this in the coming episodes. There are several principles in Scrum, out of which my favorite one is self-organizing teams. That's the idea. You have a team, you leave them to your devices, not that you just let them go that, okay, do whatever you want. But the idea is to empower them. They know their work better. They are developers, they are QA, UI, UX, what have you. They know their job really well, but there has to be someone who circles them all together and points them in one direction that needs to be achieved, your outcome. But at the end of the day, who needs to do the job? Who needs to write the line of code? It's a team together that will come and do that and make it happen. Best thing you can do is empower them. Help them self-organize, help them find solutions on their own, and move on from there. Along the way, you make adjustments, you have your Scrum ceremonies. My favorite Scrum ceremony is the daily Scrum Call. And after that is what I have named this podcast as well, the daily Scrum Call. It's one of the most powerful, most fundamental ceremonies, if you ask me. My personal opinion about that ceremony is this, because that is one place where the team comes together to discuss about their daily work. We talk about what happened yesterday, what work did I do, what did I accomplish, what is my plan for today, what am I looking at closing out today or accomplishing today. And I will call out if there are any blockers, any concerns where I actually need help. So everyone within the team knows who's working on what, and if someone needs help, you can even discuss about it. So in that fashion, the team is empowered to move forward on their own together as a cohesive unit. Apart from that, there are multiple other ceremonies which I will cover one by one. I'm just giving you an overview. And this whole thing culminates into accomplishing sprints, time-boxed durations where you say, I'm going to achieve XYZ number of things. And by the end of that sprint, I should be having a potentially shippable software, meaning a software which I could move it to production right now. Why? Because in that one sprint, and this is where the Agile and Scrum thing comes together. In that one sprint, it could be of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, not more than a month. Let's take a 2-week sprint. In that 2 weeks time, I would have written code, I would have QA'd that as well, and I can confidently say that this can be moved to production right now. That is the effort we are trying to bring in. And by the end of the sprint, we would do our demos, we would get feedback. Even during the sprint, the QA would give feedback and the developer would immediately fix it right then and there. And if in the sprint demo, the business says, hey, this is good, we like it. We could, if not production, we could always move it to a pre-production or, a lower environment. So again, depending on how different teams organize themselves. But that's the overall gist of it. The other good part about Agile in general, while it does have, its stipulations, its principles in place, it still emphasizes that these are not set in stone, because every organization is different. The market outside the external environment is different. It changes constantly, right? Who knew one day iPhone would come out? And lo and behold, the cell phone market just changed from that point, right? So things can change. You need to see what works best for your team, for your organization. But do not lose sight of the concepts and the principles of Agile, because the concept is very simple. Fail fast, learn, get feedback, proceed, make progress faster, earlier, to be ready for any change. So with that, folks, that was the overall gist. I will be covering more topics. So keep listening, stay tuned. And I hope you enjoyed today's Scrum Call. Look forward to the next one. This is Shishir signing off from the Scrum Call.